What's going on, people? Welcome back to the Half Court Press podcast, aka, well, we can't really call it the Joe Mauer podcast because it's as our generation says, it's Joe over. It's Joe over. However you said it.
Joe Mauer will always be a friend of the podcast
for sure.
Whatever time of the year we're doing this.
Yeah, I'm obviously Joel Lorenzi. I got Wilson Moore with me, and it's a sad day for multiple reasons. I think one, because obviously I'm out of here. This is my last podcast.
People who don't follow you on Twitter might not, and just listen to the pod might not know, but yeah, Joel's going up to the big leagues. Yes,
sir. And it's also sad because for Wilson, the friends of the podcast, the Twins lost their playoff series. You know, I was watching SportsCenter last night, and this baffled me. Maybe obviously I'm not super well versed in baseball culture, but I was watching SportsCenter and I was seeing like the different teams who won their series, like Houston, for example, like popping bottles in the locker room, and I'm like, I had to text my friend. I'm like, yo, this is the second round, right? Like, I know I'm not tripping. Like, why are they popping bottles after the second round? If this is the NBA, if Luka would have popped bottles when they advanced to the Western Conference Finals a couple years ago when they whooped the Suns, if he would have popped bottles in that locker room, we would have never heard the end of that during that off season leading up to now. We would have never. He could have never let that down. Why is that a thing in baseball?
Well, fewer playoff rounds. You know, it's each one is a bigger deal because there's fewer. You know, each one is a further percentage closer to the championship. I think tradition and just, I don't know, if you're a grown adult, you only get so many chances in your life to spray champagne on other people. And I guess, you just want to take that opportunity when you get them.
Fair enough. But I do think in Houston's case, it was especially strange for me seeing Houston do it because, I mean, Houston has had the run they've had. Like
7 straight ALCS.
Yeah, so it's like, dude, what are you popping about? Maybe Verlander because he found his way back or whatever. Like give me a break.
Yeah.
Like
the Twins did the week before when they won their first playoff series in 20 years.
Okay, see, that makes sense. Maybe you could catch some shit for that on Twitter. Like that kind of reminds me of Pat Bev jumping on the scorers table when they won the playing game.
We are just running through my favorite sports memories of all time here.
Favorite? Oh, wow. Wilson's memory either isn't long or is super, super tragic.
It's the memory of someone who grew up around Minnesota sports is what it is.
Oh, yeah. When you frame it like that, it's heartbreaking. But that also brings us to something we'll talk about later in terms of achievements and how people view that. But Wilson just got back from Big Ten Media Day, right? And according to some sources, it wasn't super populated, right? But tell me what you saw at Big Ten Media Day.
Look, I mean, as far as how many people were there, this was my first one, so I don't know what a normal amount is. It was definitely smaller than Big Ten football media days, which makes sense because that's in the middle of the summer when there's nothing going on. This, like if you're covering, like a Michigan or an Ohio State or a Wisconsin where football's, the main thing, you're probably not going to send a beat writer and miss a few days of football availability. But anyway, it was good. It was it's a good time back in the homeland of Minneapolis, so that makes it even better. In the Target Center, the site of Pat Bev hopping on the scorer's table. But we Nebraska sent 3 players, 2 newcomers, Josiah Alec and Rink Mast, plus C.J. Wilcher, and they're 3 veteran guys who have been around a bit, played a lot of college basketball, even if for 2 of them it's their first time in Nebraska, first time playing for Nebraska. I think we got a good sense of their personalities in the half hour we spent with them. Another advantage, not a ton of people there. It was pretty light around their table, able to ask a lot of questions, able to, I think, get to see their personalities in a way that you can't if, there are 25 people in a room by a podium, similar with Fred Hoiberg. I think a productive weekend. It was, I know for me, I've been doing, I think maybe 4 media days now, not basketball, but, SEC football, Big Ten football, whatever. It always just gets me fired up for the season to start,
for sure.
Matt Painter comes out on the stage and it's just like, it's college basketball season again. So,
I do miss media days, man. It's sad that my overlap here won't extend toward New York because it's like right there. Like as soon as I start in OKC, like it would have been New York, and I was looking forward to New York, man. New York last year was fun. Just being in New York, dude, is like
New York's awesome.
Yeah. It's a little different than than Minneapolis.
It is,
sure.
and I'll own that. Like that's we never claimed to be New York and Minneapolis, but that's okay.
Right, and that's what I like about y'all. Y'all are the most humble, maybe main city, metro in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I like that about y'all.
Yeah, I mean, not that we'd call out like St. Louis like that for thinking too highly of itself, but
Sure. Okay.
yeah, we're getting off topic here.
Yeah.
Making fun of Midwestern cities, but
Well, I'm from the best one, so anyway, from what you were able to ask in 30-minute increments, and with Nebraska's table, not necessarily drawing a ton of attention. What were your takeaways?
oh, my impressions were, this was and we had a sense of this earlier, but it was really reinforced by the main talking points, and that was this is a team that was very intentionally designed and built up. I think we've seen over the past couple of years, Nebraska kind of embrace the transfer portal, and this is a really good example of them not just doing that, but getting guys who know how to play basketball. Rink Mast and Josiah Alec did not play against the highest competitions. They were at Bradley and New Mexico, respectively, but they have been around. They know how to play college basketball, and the result I think we're going to see, the sense I got is we're going to see a very mature Nebraska team that comes out there, a team that knows how to handle itself, a team that doesn't get too high or too low, and the big emphasis they're talking about is just a physical team. That hasn't been something really associated with Nebraska, but Fred said we want to be known for a team that that'll hit you, and Josiah Alec I think might be one of the guys most just well suited. He's got the motor to really play like that. He loves crashing the offensive glass. A guy that wasn't there, Jawan Gary, is healthy, and he has that kind of style of sort of rim running center, get offensive rebounds. So yeah, I think I've said on this podcast before, I think Nebraska will be improved from last year. I think they have better personnel. I think they have more versatility to do more on offense, more outside shooting, and I think we saw a lot of that from their comments that are just these are guys that have been around and can play basketball.
Yeah, and in fairness to Josiah, New Mexico was actually they were pretty good last year. Like for what it's worth, like they were pretty good to watch last year. They were fun. They were one of the last remaining undefeated teams. Not that they were necessarily playing big powers or juggernauts or anything like that, but they were fun. I remember them in Vegas last year at the same tournament as Creighton. So what did you maybe go into Minneapolis hoping to find, and did you find it? If anything.
That's a good question. I think, like I was saying, just getting a sense of what this team is about and what they're going to try to do. I think it was very intentional, the three guys that came to Minneapolis with Fred Hoiberg, that Wilcher, Mast, Alec. These guys are the leaders of the team. They're going to be the ones who set the tone. I think we got a good sense of that. And yeah, just it's always helpful, being one of only 3 or 4 members of the Nebraska media there, getting them comfortable with you as a journalist, especially being new on the beat. And yeah, I think just getting a deeper understanding of what this team is, how they're going to play, what they want to do, and just kind of the temperature of the team, I guess, would be a good way of putting it.
Yeah, you mentioned the temperature. Obviously, you talked a lot about what the team makeup will look like and getting a good sense of that, but what sense do you get of the level of urgency around this team and the window that Fred Hoiberg might have to see this team perform?
Yeah, I mean, Fred, he's been asked about this, and there were times when he sort of danced around it, but he said, at the podium, not just at the breakout table, but at the big podium in front of everyone, he said, we want to be playing in the postseason. And I think that's a good goal to have. I think it's not exactly a unique goal. I don't think you're going to see any teams that say we don't want to be playing, deep into March. But this is a team that won 6 of its last 8 games in a pretty good Big Ten conference, and I guess that's another takeaway from talking to Fred there, and his previous kind of availabilities is that this coaching staff really thinks it found something in those last 6 weeks of the Big Ten season. They don't think it was a fluke. They think they found a kind of formula that it can replicate of, the way it plays, being, like I said, an experienced, mature team, which again went into what the coaching staff was looking for when it went out and got guys like Rink Mast and Josiah Alec and even Boogie Coleman in the portal. Boogie was not Plan A. He was a late sign in August after all the Aaron Eula stuff went down. But he's another guy. He's at his third school. He's played a lot of college basketball, and there's just something that no matter how talented you are, and Nebraska's not for the most part not landing these like 5-star freshmen who are gonna dive right in and go crazy in their first year. And there's a value just someone who has played a lot of basketball, and that's what most of the transfers have done.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously we talk about the window that Hoiberg and Nebraska maybe has, especially with, maybe the clock ticking for Hoiberg. It felt like that last year until they kind of made that late surge, and you kind of saw pieces of it, at least enough to where it was like, okay, maybe we give Hoiberg another season, another go. And, speaking of windows, I was at Creighton Media Day, pseudo Media Day. It was in their gym, not exactly Big East Media Day, but there was talk about Creighton's window. Obviously, they got this big three of sorts, and Ryan Kalkbrenner, Trey Alexander, and Baylor Shireman. And I was curious, sitting down with Baylor, sitting down with Trey Alexander, especially Baylor. What he felt like about the sense of urgency, about the window they have, especially being a team held to expectations it's almost never had. And you could easily say that they've never had prior to last year. But after going to the Elite Eight, they've faced nothing but expectations. And, while I don't want to say it's been polarizing, but, some people are like, obviously even without R2 and Art, like this is a team that can make it back to the Final Four. Others are like, well, considering their losses, what they got to make up, like maybe they fall short. But Baylor, in terms of window, he told me word for word, like, I think this is going to be our last year together. And so they're stressing, it seems, that window, that lifespan that big three has, because they know once those three are out the door, they're aware. Once those three are out the door, it's a new era for Creighton. It's weird to think about, who will stay. I had someone tell me the other day that Ryan Kalkbrenner should be watched as a dark horse to return maybe by the end of the year. I don't think he should, because I think once you return after all this happened, I think he'd be in a similar position as Zach Edey. And so once you cross the threshold, it's kind of, if you really have NBA aspirations, it's kind of hard to really stick. It becomes harder, in my opinion, just optics-wise. But, no matter who you consider to be a returner or whatever, most people would say that this is their last year together. And obviously they got some promise coming in next year with those three freshmen. But you're looking at, hey, if McDermott is the guy to do this, this is the best chance you've given him. And so I think these players understand that sense of urgency. They've stressed it. They've embraced their roles. Baylor Shireman looks better than he did a year ago. Trey Alexander has been kind of forced into this, hey, be the primary option, be this playmaker. He told me that he expects that he can get games where he has 9 assists, which seems like a lot, but he seems to be confident in that playmaking jump. And then Ryan Kalkbrenner seems to be confident in some semblance of a jumper, remaining what he was, maybe improving on the boards, doing the stuff necessary that these three guys had heard since the NBA draft process.
Yeah. With that window, if we're operating on the assumption that, with this core group, this is their last shot, how well equipped do you think Creighton is to maximize that?
I've kind of teetered on that over the past month or so. Obviously it was easy to see with all the hype around Ashworth when he committed, how high he ranked on portal lists, just the skill set itself, not really considering physical profile or anything. The skill set itself was like, damn, like Creighton hadn't had anything like this at point guard. And obviously I've probably been the guy to talk most about, what they lost in Nemhard and in turn what they've gained with Ashworth. I've probably seen that balanced more than anybody, and kind of looked at that reviewed that more than anybody. But I'm higher on Ashworth now than I was a month ago, and probably similarly as high as I was when he first committed. And obviously, like, the stuff they got to work out at the 4, like Mason Miller, it's been made pretty clear at this point. Like, Mason Miller is going to be their starting 4 as it stands. So whether he takes a leap, I wrote something about that, like a couple weeks back. Whether he takes a leap means everything for them, because some of these guys are not going to be able to be as comfortable. I think of Trey Alexander more than anybody. Like, Trey Alexander isn't going to be as comfortable as he was last year. Like, he's going to have to get uncomfortable. There were games where he could defer, be a third option, whatever, maybe even a fourth. Like, they had that kind of starting lineup that they granted that. You had somebody in R2 that could get you 30 in a tournament game. Now, I'm not saying Ashworth isn't that, but it feels like because of Ashworth's off-ball abilities that he's going to be able to defer a little bit more. It felt like you had to get Nembhard involved on the ball a lot of times to make him effective, because it was hard to hide him in spacing and stuff like that. And so this whole thing is going to thrust Trey Alexander more than anybody to the forefront, to a new role, to a transcendent role, where it's like either you do these things and Creighton is successful, or you don't, and maybe you don't get drafted where you want to. Like, it's kind of like an either-or thing. Like, he really doesn't have a choice. And so they're really dependent on some leaps. In terms of the window, I think they got a squad, man. Like, I really do. I don't know if I think they're, like, shout out John Fanta. I don't know if I think they're the 6th best team in the country as it stands, but I definitely think they're a top 10 team, top 10-ish at least. There are some teams that maybe have bigger question marks, but I think about ceiling and floor. I think this team's floor is super high. That's obviously not what they're aiming for, right? Like, they're trying to get back to the Final Four.
Yeah,
so
high floor doesn't do them much good at this
exactly.
point.
So I think they got a great chance, but there are some things that need to be answered. It isn't like last season, as crazy as it sounds, like, and I think a lot of this was because of how much the staff and the department hyped up their bench, which turned out to be not nearly as good. I felt better about the team's chances of going so deep, like Final Four, national championship last year, maybe even by a smidge, just because of how strong their starting lineup was. Now, obviously, I think they've made up for their losses, but I don't know. I don't know what it is that does it have me as high on them. I don't think that means anything. I think they could still go just as far or even further. But I don't know. They haven't really grappled me yet. Like, I'm not there to say, oh yeah, they're a top 5 team. Yeah. I think they're a top 10. But I got to see the questions answered first. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it seems to me, and I'm obviously not as informed as you, but the big question is, as you talk about, we have to see what this team can do, is how do they play without Ryan Nembhard and Arthur Kaluma? That's the big. Am I right about that?
Yeah. And honestly, to me, I think that I'll be fair and say that I think their problems, kind of like I alluded to before, their problems are probably much smaller than other teams' problems. Like, some of those teams in the top 25 that are being projected based on talent, things like that. Like, this is a proven team that was just there last year. They retained a lot of the pieces, the most important pieces, I say. And I think their biggest questions as of now are, like, what will be the difference in defensive effectiveness? Like, I don't think they'll take a big dip, but how much of a small dip, because that still matters, that dip, if there is any. What kind of dip will there be? What will it look like? I think that's maybe one of their biggest questions. And then, obviously, putting pressure on the rim, which, as I've, chewed on it over the summer, it's become a smaller issue to me, but it's still, if you had to name their issues, it's an issue. So they have, I think, smaller problems than a lot of these other teams, but they're problems nevertheless. And so that's really what I'm stewing on more than, their losses at this point.
Yeah. Now, there's something you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Well, our producer brought it up. I had completely forgot about it because I tried to erase this thing from my mind as soon as possible, especially at the timing of it and everything. So if you are a active Jay's Twitter user, then you saw this tweet 1,000 times. You saw variations of the tweet 1,000 times. It was the most annoying, I will say polarizing for this, the most annoying, polarizing thing I saw on Jay's Twitter probably all summer, man. The Elite 8 rings. Now, this is a concept that it seems like a lot of people we're unfamiliar with. This is a thing that other teams do. Creighton, as far as I know, received Sweet 16 rings when they went to the Sweet 16. And teams do this, man. Like I mean, maybe if you're a blue blood, I don't know that you do it as often or what you do with those rings if you hold on to them. But this team was proud of their accomplishment, and I'm not gonna fault them for that. Obviously, some people are like, man, it's weak as hell. Like you shouldn't be holding on. That's like hanging in an Elite Eight banner. But I mean, hell, this team hadn't been there, man. So I could see it from their point of view. But honestly, my point of view was like, yo, shut up about some shit like this. Like I honestly don't care. Like I think different teams have different expectations. But one, this ring thing isn't a new thing. Like teams do this. I don't know why people are thinking it's a Creighton only thing and they're treating it like their Super Bowl or something. Like, yo, like they went far. They're gonna hold on to the rings. They're not saying, yo, we went to the Elite Eight. Like, like look at us. Like it's not that, bro. Like I just don't understand the reaction to it. Like I get it from the trolls and stuff like that, but I don't understand how many people were reacting to it, like, and why. Like that was baffling to me. And I thought that should have been out of the news cycle after a day. But it was a thing for days, man. And I'm like, yo, what the hell are we doing, bro? Like I tried to forget that as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ring culture is an annoying thing in sports. This idea that, you know, you can't appreciate anything, you can't enjoy anything. Any season that doesn't end in a championship is an unequivocal failure without, you know, appreciating the moments that brought you there and understanding that, you know, every team but one is going to end their season with a loss.
Exactly. And so if it was me, like, would I ask for an Elite Eight ring? Probably not. Would I accept an Elite Eight ring? Sure. Would I be looking at it and caressing it and kissing it every day? Hell no. So I thought it was something that we just didn't have to talk about, man. Yeah. But that leads me to my last point, and it is something we do have to talk about, and that is me and you being on our last podcast, obviously of a long series of podcasts, right? We've been at it for years now, clearly. but man, I gotta say this is a sad day because me and Wilson, obviously when we went to Mizzou together, and we were super geeked for this link up to be at the same paper finally and covering, you know, similar things in basketball, and so this hurts, man. Like this really hurts, bro. And I was telling Wilson,
better a little of it than none at all.
Sure. And I was telling Wilson, like, even before I took this next opportunity, I was like, man, like, I was thinking about him during the process because I'm like, man, this hurts. Like I haven't had a this we really should call this the Turnstile podcast because I've had about 5 different co-hosts. So to do this to Wilson was like, damn. And like I felt like I like doing the pods with Sam. I like doing the pods with Dirk too. But me and Jimmy, like being 2 young bulls, like that chemistry was different. I always felt like, and I kind of felt that spark with Wilson. Obviously, we got more chemistry than any of those duos because we've known each other so long. So it hurts to say goodbye, man. It does, man.
Yeah. Our basketball conversations will no longer be recorded. They will.
Yeah. They'll be strictly through iMessage and whatnot. And I'll be talking crazy about, you know, whoever. I got to make Wilson sign an NDA or something, man. So he don't leak our text messages, man.
I was gonna say, if you have some outlandish Creighton basketball related take,
I'll probably just tweet him out.
This is the time for it, you know. Sure. Last podcast, but you know, so we thought it'd be good for you to reflect a little on your time covering Creighton. And I guess you'll start. You know, what was your favorite thing that you covered while you were?
My favorite thing that I covered. Obviously, the tournament run was crazy. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed going to different, because we were in the NBA arenas, man. I mean, Louisville obviously is in the NBA arena. I think they do some preseason stuff there and have over the years, but that they treat that gym like a sanctuary over there because obviously Kentucky basketball's king there and whatnot. So like I think just going from gym to gym, going to city every week to the point where I was like forgetting what my apartment looked like. I'm like, man, did I leave the stove on? Like shit like that. Like so I thought that was super fun. Got to see my guy Bennett in Denver.
Oh, yeah. another friend of the podcast.
Yes, sir, another friend of the podcast. Just the thrill of going city to city and stuff like that, and then obviously covering a team that went as far as the Elite Eight. It's hard to beat that, man. I mean, maybe those New York days where it's like Big East Media Day, I thought that was super fun because I feel most at home in New York, ironically. So between those two, I don't think it gets much better than either of those, to be honest.
What about your favorite thing that you wrote?
Favorite thing that I wrote? Damn, that's tough. I like the Fred King story I did this past summer.
I like that one too.
Just because, for multiple reasons. One, obviously, the World-Herald didn't have the budget to send me to the Bahamas just to look at where Fred is from, or even for the games. So I felt like I got as good of a picture as I could about where Fred was from, between the people I talked to and whatnot. And Fred, for a guy that's advertised as, not being talkative at all, very reserved, very stuck in his shell, like, Fred almost talked my ear off for this story. Like, I got a good chunk of stuff from Fred, probably as much as anybody's ever gotten out of Fred for the story, and he was super helpful. And I thought I told a necessary, timely story, man. Like Fred's story is important. This is a guy that people see some promise in, man. And so that was fun to tell. Kalkbrenner's was fun to tell too, just because I felt like what I was able to do with that. Bless you. What I was able to do with that, in terms of that's another guy that was super reserved, and is more calculated and diplomatic in the media. Like he has the words for sure. He just chooses them wisely, especially after that thing with Sonogo to start last year or so. To get him to open up some and talk about his origins was fun. And then I think the poker story I got while covering the tournament on McDermott on those famous poker games. I don't think you were here for that, but I don't know if you ever read that. But
I don't know that I did.
Yeah,
I read the other two. I read Fred King and Kalkbrenner. I don't know that I've read that one.
Yeah, but Mac, in between like tournament availabilities, he mentioned something about the summer trips with Nike. They would assemble some coaches, and there would be these poker games where they would stay up till 2 a.m. and he listed off a huge name of coaches, legendary coaches like Roy Williams. He even mentioned Fred Hoiberg was a part of the games one year. Like, these were games that, I mean, over the years with Nike, I think Michael Jordan was a part of. Like, these were, I don't know that Mac was there necessarily for Michael Jordan, but like the Dr. J's of the world, like these were that poker table, wherever it is, like it saw some famous hands, man. And so that was a fun one to tell. Just to even see that side of Mac, to associate him with gambling for what he is, it was fun.
Well,
that's it for us, huh?
Congratulations on a great run as the Creighton beat writer, the Omaha World-Herald.
Yes, sir.
It has been a pleasure to be alongside you for a few months, but really more just these past couple weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy we spent more time covering Nebraska football together than we did covering actual basketball together.
Yeah.
Which is a sad reality.
Yeah, but it's a pleasure living in the same state as you for the third time.
Yeah, you keep following me.
Yeah.
So I hope he doesn't. Is there a beat that he can follow me to? And okay, see, what are you going to take on, OU or maybe the Thunder? Maybe you.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't join the Thunder, man. If I got to compete against the dude, I'm going to be mad as hell. I already got to compete against Brett.
If I somehow ended up on the Thunder beat, it would get to the point of this being like a bit of me just following you.
Oh, yeah. I'm going through the courts, and I'm drawing up a restraining order or something, man. It's got to get to that point. But, man, I appreciate you, Wilson. Yeah. You among my hosts, I'm not going to rank my hosts because I don't want to hurt no feelings.
See, that's the kind of outlandish thing I'm saying you should just say now. But no.
In terms of chemistry, you're a top 2 host.
I appreciate it.
I love you, Wilson, man. I got a lot of love for you, bro. I know you're going to do great things here. And I hope, if I have some say in it, the Creighton fans will have a writer that kind of had a similar approach to me, in that, they treat this thing objectively, with fairness, see it from all sides, and, give this beat what it deserves. And, it was tough for me to follow in the footsteps of Piv, rest in peace, and and Johnny Atawa, especially because they were so beloved around here, and they did their thing for years, man. Like I was only here for a year and change, which is probably different for some people, because those dudes were doing this for years and at it for years, and became well loved and well known in the community. And so that was tough for me. And I just appreciate everybody who embraced me, who read my stuff. I can't thank them enough. Those who interacted, especially with the mailbags, who kind of took off, and it was dope. Every step of the way was dope, man. Like covering the team this good, seeing the passion behind the team and program so good, and that will continue to be good while I'm gone, man. When I moved here, I didn't know where the hell Creighton was. You know what I'm saying? I had heard of Omaha because I knew somebody that I went to college with was from Omaha, but I couldn't tell you how to get there, where it was located, or nothing. And I think in the past year, I've seen more than enough to say, like, yo, like, Omaha, like, Creighton has put Omaha on the map to an extent, man, and I think they're going to keep doing that. And I was happy for this to be my first gig. I'm elated for this to have been my first gig. I don't think it could have fallen any better way. And so I appreciate the readers, the fans, the staff here, because I do continue to believe in the World-Herald's mission and what they do. Like I saw somebody on Twitter the other day say this is the OWH is struggling with retention or something like that. Like, dude, they hired me when I was 22. I think they always planned for me to, move on at some point. And I thought that what we did here was a good product while I was here. And I think the team is going to continue to hire faces like me, faces like Wilson, young voices who are hungry, man, and are going to want to put out a good product and are going to get this beat what it deserves. And if I got any say in it, it'll be someone who is more than qualified, hopefully somebody better than me. And so thank you, all the readers, all the listeners who checked into the Half Court Press podcast, most recently known as the Joe Mauer podcast. And I appreciate y'all. We out, man.